Hi there, this is Leah O'Brien with Honeybee Stamping and More. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in the US, and I saw this adorable little box with tags on it on fellow demonstrators' cards by Katie, and I made a couple of modifications to suit what I needed, and I'm going to share with you today how I made it. So it's a little belly band, and inside I have little tags and a clothespin that has string on it. So what I'm going to show you today is how to make the box and the belly band. So we'll put that aside. First thing we need is a piece of cardstock. I use the thick Whisper White, which, as we know, is going to be discontinued, sadly, but it'll be replaced with something, I'm sure, something that's equally as good. So we have a piece of cardstock that's 8 inches by 7.5 inches, and we're going to score the 7.5 inch side at 1 1/4 and 6 1/4. And we're going to turn it 180 degrees, and on the 8 inch side, we're going to score at 1 1/2, 3.5 inches, 5 inches, and 7 inches. And while we have our scoreboard out, I'm going to take the designer series paper that I used for the belly band, and this is cut at 1 inch by 12 inches. And I'm going to have the stripes on the outside of this one. For my first box, I used the stripes for the decoration on the outside, and then this houndstooth as for the belly band, and I'm just going to flip it around this time. So for the belly band, we're going to score at 2 inches, 3 1/4 inches, 8.5, and then 10 inches. And we'll put that aside because we'll do that after we do. So this is our cardstock that we scored. I'm going to bring my template in. And as you see, this we're going to make sure you keep the shorter side. This is the 1 inch side, always to the right. Now let's do it this way. It's a little bit easier to see. So we're going to remove these 2 tabs. This tab we're going to just cut in half and then wedge it. And then these other tabs we're just going to cut. I know usually when we make a box we wedge it to make it all go back together, but you'll see why I'm not wedging these 3 sides. So right now we're just going to cut up all of these tab lines. And then we're going to remove these 2 tab lines. And then these 2, we're going to cut them in half, and I just eyeballed it. And then we will wedge those. So before we start folding and burnishing, I'm going to bring in my triple punch, and we're going to round these 2 corners. And to do that, I need to fold these 2 tabs back to be able to fit my cardstock in to the punch. Now I'll go ahead and fold and burnish. So before we start assembling our box, it's always easier to put the designer series paper on it while it's flat. So I'm going to bring my designer series paper in. And these are cut at, I have two pieces that are 1 1/4 by 4 3/4, one piece that is 1 3/4 by 4 3/4, and then one small one that's 3/4 by 4 3/4. This little one is going to go on the front flap, so I'm going to go ahead and round the corners on this as well. And we'll go ahead and start assembling or adhering the designer series paper to this. So now we're ready to assemble our box. The one thing I forgot to mention is when you're putting your designer series paper on, you want to make sure that you skip one of the larger sections because that's actually the bottom. So to assemble this, we're going to use our tear and tape. And sometimes I find it's a little bit easier to kind of put it together just to be able to take a look to see how it's all going to go. So on these front tabs, these are going to be the ones that are on the outside of the edges. So this is the side that these are the tabs you want to put the tear and tape on. Okay, so now we're going to remove our tear and tape and start putting our box together. So these tabs are going to go in. Now this is, here it comes in as to why I didn't wedge these. It helps, at least it helped me, be able to make it square better. So I'm holding this tab up against this score line. And then lining those up together, the bottom here. And then the same thing on the other side. So it's a little bit easier if you do it on the tabletop. I'm going to bring my bone folder in and just make sure that everything's adhered. And then these little tabs just get folded in. So for a closure on mine, because I did not use ribbon, I used little Velcro tabs. And when I get these, I put the male and female sides together. It just makes it easier to use. So I'll remove the backing off the one side. here to the tab, to the flap rather, and then I play around with pottery, so I have no nails, and it always makes things like this interesting. And then just get that to catch, and then pull it apart and just make sure that that's good and adhered. There. So we'll do our belly band. So on my belly band, because this is actually longer than a 12-inch piece of designer series paper, I used an oval using the layering oval dies to be able to connect the two sides. And then you can decorate it any way you want. So I'm going to just finger burnish, because it's designer series paper, it doesn't take a whole lot. And then even though this is the third one I've made, I always do a little dry run. And say for some reason, this side I have the score line in the wrong spot. So I'm just going to use my fingers and press in a score line so that it'll fit nicely. So what I use to adhere the oval to the belly band is some tear and tape. I just put one stripe down here on the edge. Remove the tear and tape. Put our belly band back on the box. And then adhere the oval to one side and the other. And I found it easiest, because of the way the sides are, to when you're putting it on, you put it on from the front, and when you're taking it off, you just push it all the way through. So once that's on there, I just want to make sure that this is good and adhered. So I use my bone folder. There we go. So there's a box that's ready for some more tags. You could actually put candies in this. I bet those little, can't think of what they're called. They're in gold wrapping. They would fit in here. I bet you could probably get 4 in here. They'd be really cute. So thank you for joining me today. I will link all the supplies that I used below. If you do not already subscribe to my YouTube site, please do. You can subscribe below, and you can also hit the bell to make sure you get notification of when I post another video. I invite you to check out my blog. It's honeybeestampingandmore.blogspot.com. And until next time, bye.